I'm going to tell my wife because she brought me a cup of tea and I mustn't refuse it. There you go, I'll tell her to bring it in. ¿Se fue Sara?
¿Vale?
Sara is there?
No, pero me ha dicho que el té está afuera.
Ah, está afuera, thank you.
Okay.
Well, my name is Solomon Levy. I'm 74 years old. But when I see pretty girls, I feel 47 years old. My family have lived in Gibraltar for 250 years, despite the fact that the Treaty of Utrecht in 1713, which ceded Britain Gibraltar after they took it in 1704, that Treaty 1713 is still valid today, and how the Spaniards usually say, we can't do this, we can't do that because of the treaty. When they close the frontier, they use the treaty as an excuse. And that piece says, of course, that if we Gibraltarians ever don't want Gibraltar to be British, it goes back to Spain. And that will never happen. Even when my Messiah comes, we will always be British. So anyway, Article 10 of the Treaty of Utrecht says clearly, until this very day, no Jews or Moors will live on the rock. Well, my family have been here now 250 years, and with the expression to the camera, so much for the treaty. Now, Jews started to come here. The first Jew appeared about 1708. His surname was Hassan, no relation of ours because my mother's name was Hassan, but he got a job as a postman. And when people heard that I was people heard that Gibraltar was a nice place, a good place for business, they started to come here, and they started to really come in lots. They did good business here. But of course, because the Treaty of Utrecht said no Jews were supposed to be here, no governor would allow Jews to buy property. Until one governor decided, these people aren't that bad after all, let them have a go. And they sold a plot, and the first thing they did was build a synagogue, which is now 285 years old. Now, when they also came, our cemetery by the airport, then it wasn't an airport, it was then a race course. But it was very near Spain, facing Spain. And when Jews came here, they said to the government, look, we're going to be here, we're going to stay here, we're going to die here, but we don't want to be buried in a place which faces a place which expelled us in 1490 and they want nothing to do with Jews. Hence we got a plot of land in the upper rock known as Jews Gate, where they were buried until about the year 1875. Then they decided to be buried in town. And they started to come here. Eventually, they built 4 synagogues, and there were quite a few, about over 2,000 Jews here. And everybody ever got together. There was an interesting fact about a governor once said, I must get rid of these Jews because the Treaty of Utrecht says they're not supposed to be here, and I want to have good relations with Spain. And there was a gentleman called Mr. Judah Ben-Oliel, a distant relation of ours, and he went to the governor and said, if you dare throw the Jews out of Gibraltar, I'll chain you back from Gibraltar all the way to London in a gold chain to make sure you get away from here. And then he got the name of the Golden Boy, because he said that to him, and even to this day, all people remember that. But the beautiful thing and unique thing about Gibraltar is that we're all one big family, irrespective of being Catholic, Protestant, Jewish, Hindu, or Muslim. We all get together like one big family, which is nothing extraordinary, the way it should be. In a small place, we're 30,000 people. At the moment, we have a Jewish community of 650 Jews. There are 1,200 Moroccans. The rest are Catholics and Protestants. We're all Gibraltarians, except the Muslims, of course, they're not Gibraltarians. And although we're only 650 Jews, we have 4 synagogues. Now people say, what do you want 4 synagogues for 650 people? Well, before the Second World War, we were 1,800. But when the evacuation came, we had to leave Gibraltar. We were sent, people went to London at the government's expense. They went to Jamaica at the government's expense. Some went to Northern Ireland. In my family, I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters, but there was only 3 of us. My parents, so we were young, we went to Madeira for 5 years. We paid our own way there. And it's interesting that we went to Madeira because when I became mayor the 1st of August 2008, they for some time they'd been planning to twin Madeira and Gibraltar. And when I became mayor, I'm the first ever civil mayor as opposed to political mayor. I was elected not by the people but by the government and opposition. They elected me. It was my turn to go to Madeira to do the twinning ceremony between Gibraltar and Madeira. And having been there for 5 years, they found out about it, and they arranged for me to see all the sites where I'd lived and all the things I've been to. And of course, I have a friend here who has a degree in Portuguese university degree, and I wrote a speech in English, and I said to him, please translate it for me into Portuguese. I knew a bit of Portuguese. My wife's family are from Portugal. So in front of 300 people, I was able to give a speech in Portuguese. And the mayor from Madeira, who speaks English, said to me, Momy, 19 out of 20. So I passed that test. And another interesting thing when I was mayor was that I spent 18 years in the Gibraltar Regiment. Now, when I came back from England, I've been away 10 years, I noticed that in the Gibraltar Regiment there weren't any Jews in the regiment. And I'm a great believer in mixing with everybody, and we should all partake in everything as Gibraltarians. As it happened at the time when I came back in April 1960, they advertised for army commissions. I applied. I became Second Lieutenant Solomon Levy. Then eventually I got to the rank of captain. I didn't go any further because when I joined, I stipulated that unless, God forbid, there was an emergency, I wouldn't go on my Sabbath, because my Sabbath is very holy for me. But modesty apart, I did 18 years. I got my, what they call the efficiency decoration in Gibraltar, but the territorial defense medal in England, and I got the bar to it. It was 18 years. And as it happened, when I was mayor, they celebrated 70th anniversary. And only a captain, I happened to be the mayor of Gibraltar, and I took the salute. They all marched down Main Street, and I had the privilege and honor of taking the salute, because when I became mayor for the first time, it was being done all by the mayor before it was done by political people. Same as on the 10th of September 2008, first September 2008, 10th of September, we had National Day, which we celebrate, and it was the first time ever it was taken by a mayor, always a political thing. And when I went into that balcony with my mayor's robes and I saw 4,000 people, I said to the Almighty, please be good to me. And thank God I managed to do it. I talked, I spoke, I was given what I was supposed to say. I said it, and then afterwards I went downstairs to the piazza, shook hands with everybody, kissed every girl possible, about the chance of my life. And modesty apart, I shouldn't say this, but I did very well as mayor. I shouldn't say self-praise is no recommendation, but you know, to me, I say in 1999 I was awarded the MBE, a member of the British Empire. I went to Buckingham Palace with my wife and two of my daughters, and it's interesting that the first mayor ever of Gibraltar was my late uncle, Sir Joshua Hassan, the brother of my mother. Now, he was political mayor, elected by the people. He was mayor for 21 years. I was only mayor for 1 year in the new constitution, but in those days, there was no chief minister. It was a council, mayor and councillors, and he was mayor for 21 years, and he became prime minister. And when the Queen came here in 1954, he was the one who showed her around. He looked after her. But then in 1999, when I got my MBE, I went to Buckingham Palace, and when the Queen was pinning on the medal, I said to her, 43 years ago, which was 1957, I was sitting in the second row watching my late uncle get an award. Because at the time, my uncle got the CBE. After that, he got 3 knighthoods. So he got this, and he took me to Buckingham Palace. And so I said to her, and she said to me, who was your late uncle? So I said, the late Sir Joshua Hassan. And she says to me, he was a fine man. I remember him very well. Now the next day, a friend of mine who's a lord the House of Lords, said to me, I know you were in the palace yesterday, but today is a cocktail party. My wife can't come. Do come with me. So I never refused a good offer. So I went to drinks to Buckingham Palace. And I went straight for the Queen when I saw her. I was determined to say to her a few things. I hadn't had any drinks. I was quite sober. And I went up to her. As I went towards her, she kind of looked at me and said, not him again, you know. So I said, Your Majesty, it would be the dream of the Gibraltarians if he were to visit us in the millennium. And then she says to me, look what happened last time I was there. When she came in 54, Franco closed the frontier. He removed the labor because he said that no British sovereign should tread on Spanish soil without his permission. So I said, yes, Mum, but the rock belongs to you. Then she says to me, what will my cousin say? So I stood to attention and I said, with all due respect to His Majesty the King of Spain, the Rock of Gibraltar belongs to Her Majesty the Queen. You courteous, you went down like that, you bowed down like that and went away. The following week, she goes to lunch with the Lord Mayor of London, who happened to be Jewish. And because he was Jewish, he had a Jewish chaplain, a rabbi, who was my brother. So when she came in for lunch with dignitaries and celebrities, and my brother gave her a blessing in Hebrew, and after the lunch, the Lord Mayor said, Your Majesty, may I introduce you to my chaplain, Rabbi Levy from Gibraltar? And she says to him, last week I had a chap at home, trying to persuade me to come to Gibraltar. So my brother said, that's my brother. So she just said, you seem to be everywhere.
Memories of Madeira, was it?
Wonderful place. In fact, it's interesting because when we went there, we were the first Jews to go there. They hadn't had Jews there before. And we had a gentleman who kosher could kill chicken, but not cattle. So the Jewish community for 5 years, all they ate was chicken and fish. Now, when we went there, we were in hotels. And then afterwards, we had rented our own homes for 4 years. And we have outside our doors what we call a mezuzah, which is the door. And it's interesting because when we left, the landlords of the houses said to us, please, when you go away, do not remove your posts outside, because since you've been here, you brought us luck. But life in Madeira was paradise. We never saw a plane go by. We were unmolested. We were welcomed. And I can tell you, not as good as Gibraltar, nearly as good as Gibraltar. We had a school for British English boys and girls. Mm-hmm. We had a gentleman from here had a Torah. We had in his home, he had a big home, the synagogue there. The Catholics, of course, had churches there. Protestants had churches there, and we lived a life. Unfortunately, my father came with us. He was a solicitor. He had no work there, and he went mad. But he came because he wanted to look after us. But thank God it was, unlike London where they had bombing and all that, we were really living. We never saw a plane go by. And one thing I should never forget is on V-Day, on Victory Day, when Winston Churchill gave his famous speech, and he just said, this is sheer victory. I can still remember my parents crying, hearing the speech. See, I have two favorite characters in history, Lord Nelson and Winston Churchill. And to me, Winston Churchill, he saved the world from tyranny. And there's a man I admire in this world, I always will, is Winston Churchill.
I'd like to ask you a little bit about your uncle.
Yeah. You see, he's
talk to me as I'm a completely ignorant
audience
that doesn't understand how
he was a lawyer. He went to England, he qualified as a lawyer, came back and started a small practice. Then we were evacuated from here. Gibraltarians were evacuated, and after 5 years, when things got better, he said somebody must do something about it and bring Gibraltarians back. The British government didn't want to bring us back, so they could get rid of us. And he formed a party, the AACR, the Association for the Advancement of Civil Rights. And he was in power for 40 years. Except for once, for 18 months, he was out of power in the little position. But otherwise, he was first mayor, then chief minister. He got 3 knighthoods, as I said, not one but 3. He was a very down-to-earth man. He was a lawyer, and he gave up almost his practice to hardly work for the benefit of Gibraltar. Not because he's my uncle, but he can be called the father of Gibraltar. Then my young brother, who's a lawyer, he came along, joined his practice, and whereas before it was just my uncle and my brother, unfortunately my uncle died about 11 years ago. Now my brother is the head of Hassan's, which is, and he has 80 lawyers working for him. But whilst Sir Joshua was doing politics, my brother was running the business. And he was a very down-to-earth man. He talked to everybody. He didn't like anybody to escort him. He went down Main Street and he spoke from the rubbish man to the governor. No differences. And Gibraltar was privileged again to have such a man, and a true Gibraltarian.
Can you, speaking of true Gibraltarian, can you give me any examples of words or phrases that are uniquely Llanito?
The thing is that there aren't really any true phrases, because when I'm talking to my friends or I'm talking on the phone here, if I forget how to say something in Spanish, I say it in English. If I forget to say something in English, I say it in Spanish. Now, if that phone rings now and I answer in English, people say to me, "Do you have somebody there you don't want to understand?" We are Llanito. They say, some people say Llanito, the origin was because people used to go to La Linea and shout Johnny, 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 and from Johnny we came Llanito. I honestly don't know the origin. Some say that, but with Gibraltarians, I say we mix up the languages. We mix it, but otherwise we wouldn't be Gibraltarians.
So what are some? I mean, I've heard no tengo maot.
I see there, no tengo maot is no tengo in Spanish. Maot is Jewish money. Maot kesef.
It comes from the Talmud.
The Talmud, that's right. So here they incorporate Jewish words into the sentence. It's in English, Yeah. Oye, Johnny, si vas al cinema, ponte la cola and get me 2 tickets of 5 shillings each. As we feel as it comes out.
Yeah.
And as I said to you before, we always say, we're so close to Spain. British we are, British we stay, and Spanish we speak all day. Here in the office I speak Spanish all the time, but I don't write a single word in Spanish. It's we wouldn't be Llanito otherwise. That's our beauty.
Yeah. Do you think that Gibraltar will ever give in and just become part of Spain?
Never. As I said to you before, I'm an Orthodox Jew, and I believe in the coming of this Messiah. And to me, one of the signs of the Messiah coming is that in 1948 we established a state of Israel, which we never had before. Very often people say to me, "Why don't you live in Israel? You're a Jew." I said, "No, my Israel is my Gibraltar." Israel is there because what might say the insurance. God forbid, look what happened in Germany. Had they been in Israel in the 1940s, people have gone to Israel. So really it's our insurance. But for me, the establishment of the state of Israel was the beginning of the coming of the Messiah. And as I tell my French friends, when the Messiah comes, and I've always said I'll shake hands with him, why not, we'll still be British. And he'll say, "You're quite right to be British." He'll agree with me.
That's great. Kshevo HaMashiach.
Yemei HaMashiach, please God, Be'ezrat Hashem. I'm lucky to be alive. 2 years ago, I had cancer. They found a tumor in my colon, cancer tumor, and I was saved by the grace of God. God was with me, and as I told my friends, thanks to their prayers, I'm here now. It's more important than medicine. But as they say in Spanish, "Vicio malo no muere." A bad fellow doesn't die. And we are here till he wants, and my motto is, you only live once. And now modestly about I'm starting to make arrangements to write a book about my life. Not so much about my life, but things that happen in Gibraltar, because whenever we have, in the summer, we've got lots of groups here, Jewish groups, and even non-Jewish groups. And I'm always asked to talk to the synagogue, especially I take all the schools here to synagogue every year. I'm the one who tells them about. And when these other Jewish come, they say to me, where can I buy to something else? I say, I'm afraid not. So he says, "Oh, you must put it in writing." So I'm doing arrangements now if I have the time to write a book, or somebody will write it for me. Not me. I haven't the time, and I have no idea how to write a book. I can write checks, that I can do for my clients.
Hopefully they're writing you more checks than you're writing to them.
Pardon?
Hopefully they are writing you the checks, right?
Well, it works both ways.
Yeah, that's
I write them, they write them. So long as everybody's happy, it's the main thing.
yeah.